So tonight, I'm very excited to have Janice as our speaker. And before I introduce her, I just wanted to share some comments. How many of you have been, let me just rephrase that. How many of you haven't been to the DCPA? Raise your hand. Janice, you may want to close your eyes or look away right now. How many haven't been? So 2 people, 3? Okay, you get year passes. Is that part of the deal tonight? So, he's raising his hand like, hey, all right. So the DCPA is truly one of the treasures of Colorado. I don't know if all my stats are right, but I'm just going to share some and let them fly, and she can correct me. But if not, they're really good stats, and I'm going to build you up regardless. But you know, as we're dealing with people around the country, they ask about culture in Colorado. Colorado has changed so much in the last few decades. It is now a cultural city. It's a city that promotes free markets. It's a city that's on fire with entrepreneurs and a host of other things. Our DCPA, to my knowledge, is one of the, if not the largest theater complexes in the country. I always say it's number 2 outside of New York City.
Lincoln Center is number 1.
Oh, Lincoln Center. What is that? I mean, come on. So when you go to the DCPA, and I've been to so many events there, there's so many great productions to see, get-togethers to attend, etc. One of the favorite that my family goes to each year is to go see the Christmas Carol. And it's usually done often on the stage, and it's just an intimate setting. How many have seen the Christmas Carol? And so it's traditions like that that now each year my kids look forward to that. And so the DCPA not only has contributed a lot in the past, but where it's going in the future is extremely exciting. To tell you a little bit about Janice, she was named President and CEO of the DCPA in August of 2016. She leads 300 artisans and administrators who have made the 40-year-old cultural gem the largest nonprofit theater organization in the nation. That's a right stat? Whew, yes, I'm doing okay. Previously, she served as Chief of Staff for Denver Mayor Michael Hancock for 5 years, where she oversaw 60 appointees and 26 departments. That's impressive, especially in the political landscape, because not everybody plays well, believe it or not, in politics, in case you haven't heard that. Just what I heard, I don't know. She also served as the lead member of the city's collective bargaining team, managed the day-to-day complexities of running a major metropolitan city, and raised funds for the administration's priority initiatives. Prior to joining the Hancock administration, she served as the executive director of Colorado Concern, an alliance of top executives from across the state with a common interest in enhancing and protecting Colorado's business climate. She oversaw the organization's comprehensive legislative agenda, involvement with numerous ballot campaigns, and supported a targeted list of statewide candidate elections. If you don't know more about that group, I highly recommend that you get educated on them. They make a phenomenal impact in our state. Her career includes co-founding Pinnacle Public Affairs, a Denver-based political and nonprofit consulting firm, and serving as the manager of community relations, corporate communications for Sharp Healthcare in San Diego. She's recognized for her ability to thrive in fast-paced environments, and she has coordinated dozens of large public events, facilitated 2 constitutional challenges to the Supreme Court, and her bio goes on and on. We are honored tonight to have Janice with us. Help me give her a round of applause.
Oops, you have my talking points too. You want to commit it to memory? Yeah, thank you. It makes it sound like I'm about 1,042 years old with all the little things that I've done. But first of all, I do not have Hamilton tickets. You must buy them, so we'll just get that out of the way. But it's such an exciting time for me to be in this role with the Denver Center, and to have friends here. Debbie and John and I are part of the American Enterprise Institute National Network, and there's lots of friendly faces. I met Kyle at a dinner last fall right after I took my job, and you know, it's just, we have such a vibrant community, so it's such an honor to be invited to be with you. And I really want this to be interactive, so raise your hand if I say something you don't understand or you disagree with. I welcome vigorous debate. So I'm going to start with this. So understand that I came from a political stage. I spent my entire career in politics, and never in my wildest dreams think I would transfer into a performing arts organization, let alone one of the largest in the country and following Dan Ritchie like the most beloved leader in all of eternity. So big shoes to fill, even though he's a very quiet, straightforward man. And so how that transition really happened was I planned to stay with the mayor for another couple years. Many of you may know Jamie Van Leeuwen. He works for the governor. We hiked Kilimanjaro last June. I had no technology. We spent 7 days thinking and talking about our lives. And he said, go back to school. You've got this job. You know how to run the city. Go invest in yourself. So I'd say to the mayor, I'm going to stay for 2 more years at least, and we'll figure out where we are. And then Dan came knocking. And he's 85, he'd run it for 10 years. And the mayor had some really important words for me. Whenever it is that you leave, run towards it. Like when you know you want it, go. And so I did. So here I am. So what I have in front of you is a picture, and I'm not going to do a slide presentation. I just really want to set the stage for the stage that I'm now on. This is a capture from the Book of Will. Part of what the DCPA is so well known for is new work, and we have a playwright summit every year. Hundreds of people come from across the country. We commission work, and Lauren Gunderson is the most coveted new play author in the country right now, and she wrote the Book of Will, and it's a beautiful story about Shakespeare dies, and the king's men, his boyfriends, are sitting around in the tavern, and they're all starting to panic because they don't have copies of his scripts. And so it's the whole culmination of time that they take to put together the complete works of William Shakespeare, the sonnets, the comedies, and the tragedies. And so this story is about how that happened, and it's gorgeous, and I get to be a part of it. And so that's what it is. These people are so passionate, that we make everything that goes onto the stage at the DCPA. We commission the work, we hire the director, we do the casting, we make the outfits, we do all of the staging, all of the marketing, everything has to come through this amazing organization. So that's what that picture is, if you're to kind of give you a little context. A little bit about me, starting at the beginning. I'm a 4th generation Coloradan. Woo! Yeah, very proud of that. My dad was a rodeo cowboy and a dairy farmer, cigarettes in one pocket and a can of Skull in the other, banquet beer in the, palm of his hand at all times. And my mom's a social worker. She worked at Poudre Valley Hospital. She's incredible. And never in my wildest dreams did I have any idea that I'd even enter into politics, that I wanted to be a teacher, went to the University of Northern Colorado. Now I get to serve on that board. That's giving it back, coming up from an institution and making sure that you serve it into the future. Thought 5th grade was what my entire life was going to be about, is that very delicate age for a child where they're figuring out who they are and what their contribution to the world is going to be. And Ralph Ravenschlag was my 5th grade teacher, and he was the reason I wanted to do that work. And we had a grand master plan that I would get my degree in education, he would retire, I would take over his classroom. And I'm 6 months from graduating, and he said, Janice, you'll make an amazing teacher, but I think there's something else for you. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm almost done with school. We've had a plan since I was 11, And but I heard him, and he was right. I wanted to be a change agent. I really wanted to work on things that changed the world, and a classroom changes the world. But I had no political affiliation, changed my degree to political science. And 4 days after I graduated, I went to work in Washington, D.C. For Senator Allard, one of the most conservative members of Congress when he was serving. And I tell you that because I am not a conservative Republican. I am a Republican, but I'm not overly conservative. The thing about working for Senator Allard was he says, know what you believe and why you believe it, and everyone will appreciate that. Just be strong in your convictions. And then you fast forward. So I worked for rural, white, conservative, Republican. And then you play it forward 20 years, and I work for Black, progressive, Democrat in an urban environment, way different. So you could say either I'm a chameleon or whatever. What it is I believe in the issues. I work for people that are open-minded, compassionate, strong to their truths, but at the end of the day, they may be different. And I think that I play a really unique role in them. I mean, the mayor and I would have some amazing conversations where we would disagree philosophically, but we were stronger because we could engage in a dialogue where we could talk about the tough stuff. The first 6 months in the mayor's term, he decides he wants to run the largest tax increase in the history of the city. I'm like, hello, I'm right here, I'm a fiscal conservative, like, I'm your chief of staff, I'm not sure how this is gonna work. But what it did is it forced us to have a conversation with the business community that I don't think he otherwise would have had. I will have scar tissue in my knees for all of eternity, begging the chamber and the contractors and all these business organizations to understand that investing in our community is going to take us to the next level and ensure we're a world-class city. But that was a partnership, that wasn't partisan. And that's something that I really focus on in my own philosophy and the work that I do. So anyway, you heard a lot of the things that I did kind of coming up through the ranks. And then working for the mayor was such an important setup for where I am today. Again, we had 13,000 employees. I mean, we own and operate the airport. You know, I sat in with the mayor on, you know, more than 70 race and justice meetings when we're talking about division within culture and police violence and all of these different things. And so, you know, you just, in a day, I could be working with small children and working with the elderly, working with the homeless, dealing with a homicide or a heroin overdose, and, you know, just the gamut of things that come at a city leadership team is really incredible. And what I did is I fell in love with the people. I mean, we are 79 distinct neighborhoods in Denver, and one of the richest, most diverse communities in the country, quite frankly. And so I am so excited that I get to translate all of those things into this amazing organization where we make magic. I mean, the DCPA, as Brian mentioned, is we're a 501c3 nonprofit. A lot of folks don't know that we're not a big for-profit enterprise. We have about a $55 million annual budget. And there's a couple of different things that we do. One is obviously what I shared with you, which is our producing side of the house. We call that the theater company. And we also have the Broadway arm, which is what most of you are probably familiar with. So we have an executive director of Broadway named John Eckerberg. John is a Tony voter, so the Tonys are coming up, so we're going to New York and we get to see theater, and they pay us to do it, and it's amazing. So it's really fun, and if you ever need recommendations when you're going to London or New York or anything like that, always happy to help. And there's days of the week and times of the year that you can get tickets so you can see whatever you want. We had one of our trustees, he called and said, I'm taking 30 of my family members to New York and I need tickets to Hamilton. I'll get right on that, yeah. So why don't you just invite them to Denver when we have it? But anyway, so Broadway is really special. And what a lot of people I don't think know about the Broadway division is we don't produce it. We don't pick the content or the director or the interpretation of the show. It comes in on a trailer. Like for Phantom, they had a whole entire new setup this year. There were like 29 semi-trucks that come in to unpack a show. And you think of these artists, you know, most recently at Kinky Boots or American in Paris. Those artists, they'll do that same show 8 days a week for 5 years. They're living out of a trunk. They get a trunk and a suitcase. That's it. And they go to the next city, and this is their love. This is what they do. But that's Broadway, right? And you know, and then they go on to the next show. They'll close out a show. Like we just closed American in Paris. You know, it's done. And Mamma Mia just ended its run forever. Like it's totally done. But there were people that had been on that for 13 years. You know, so that's kind of what it is. That's these people come in and they invest in us as patrons, and they give us an experience that hopefully changes our life in some way or whatnot. And then we have a huge education division, which I just absolutely love. That was part of going back to my 5th grade aspirations of being a teacher. We serve 106,000 students in 37 counties in Colorado. It's It's a lot of kids. And it's a lot of teachers. When I say students, they're not always kiddos. A lot of them are teachers, and we're teaching teachers how to bring performing arts into the classroom. And so we travel, we have a full faculty, we have a beautiful theater for our students, and it's just really amazing. So if any of you have children or nieces or nephews or grandkids or anything, have them check out our education program. Another thing that's important is investing in the arts, as Brian was saying. The impact that we have in the community is about $150 million a year just through ticket sales, and that's not without all the other things that we do. So as these, and I'm going to pontificate a little bit, and this is where you'll find my Republican hat gets a little funny, but with the conversation around defunding the NEA, it's hard because there's a lot of arts programs that are dependent on a little bit of seed money to be able to invest in the arts in their communities. So the economic impact is real. We're a business too. We are a nonprofit. So wanted to talk with you a little bit about a couple of my vision areas, having come into this organization. This is where I put on my Mayor Michael Hancock hat. Because we're such diverse communities, I feel like we have a responsibility to really serve all communities. And right now, we are a predominantly white audience and a predominantly white staff. And so we're having the hard conversations right now about our hiring policies, who we serve, the content of our programs in our theaters, and we hired a beautiful, amazing leader in this space from New York named Carmen Morgan. She started an organization called Art Equity, and her focus is on equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and how you just call it. Just what is it? What does it look like? How do you change the DNA of your organization so that you are really living your values? So we're focused on that. And I was telling a couple of the ladies that are here when I got into the organization, my second week, where is my community affairs team? And I got blank stares. They were like, well, we do audience building. And I was like, we're 10% taxpayer funded through the SCFD. That's $6.3 million we get from taxpayers because they believe in us. We need to be in the community. And so I stood up an impact team. We have people of all walks of life and all demographics that have come together. We're taking a hard look at understanding our community. What was the Chicano movement of the 60s, and who was Corky Gonzalez, and who are Wilma and Wellington Webb, who brought the first ever Martin Luther King Day to the country? It happened right here. Why do we have the largest Pride Festival in the country? Why do we have the largest parade? Like, who are these amazing people that put us first in so many things? And so we're gonna get into our communities, we're learning about it, and it'll help us make sure that the content that we put on the stage is relevant to the people that haven't felt like there's a place for them at the DCPA. A couple other key developments that we're working on, part of working for the mayor was that he realized Denver didn't have a cultural plan. Since 1986, there hadn't been a vision about how we're gonna really take our arts and culture serious. So he led a group called Imagine 2020, and we put together this incredible, robust cultural plan. And so we get to live part of that through the DCPA. The mayor also had kicked off an initiative called The Next Stage. Many of you may have heard about it. It's an effort to look at the Denver Performing Arts Complex, which is coming up on 40 years old, and saying, how do we make this the best? How do we beat the Lincoln Center? How do we do these things to be not number 2 but number 1? And so it's taken a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of it's very capital intensive. It'll be, you know, much like the redevelopment of the National Western. It'll be a multi-billion-dollar redevelopment project, and then we're going to have to do it incrementally. We need our theaters to be quiet, and so if we're going to put big buildings on top of our theaters or around our theaters, we need to really do this very carefully so the disruption doesn't undermine our overall goal. We're also, you'll hear, living in Denver, as many of you do, or around Denver, the mayor's going forward with a cultural bond, or with a GEO bond, a general obligation bond campaign in November. He's gonna ask the voters to authorize between $800 and $900 million worth of general obligation bonds so we can invest in infrastructure, Denver Health, and the 5 Tier 1 organizations, which we are one of. So we're hoping to receive a multi-million-dollar hopefully as much as $20 million. I'll just put that on the record. Mayor Hancock, if you're watching, I need $20 million. Just kidding. But we'll have to, and then we'll kick off a capital campaign to supplement the money that we'd need to refurbish a bunch of our facilities. So that's kind of the vision. And then what's up for DCPA? Obviously, we are so lucky because of our Broadway affiliation and being a Tony voter that we will be hosting the pre-Broadway debut of Frozen with Disney Theatricals. They love Denver. They did it with The Little Mermaid. They did it with The Lion King, and now they're doing it with Frozen. So we will be welcoming Disney Theatricals to Denver on June 17th, and they will be here all the way until the first week of October. And so we will have galas and events and kiddos and families and all sorts of wonderful people celebrating Frozen. And what that means before they go to Broadway, bringing it to a city like ours, is we're one of the best test audiences in the country. We show up, we give honest feedback, they can really gauge what they need to do, because it'll be different every single night. The density, the timing, the lighting, who's doing what, the way they look, where they stand, everything is master planned through the pre-Broadway debut. So buy tickets, come early and often. And then Hamilton. Yes, Hamilton. How many have seen it? Anyone? No. Oh, one person's seen Hamilton. You are a New Yorker. It's incredible. It's really super beautiful. It is a phenomenon, but it's definitely worth seeing. And so being one of the first markets that they're coming to outside of Broadway, off of Broadway, is incredible. So we'll have it for 5 weeks, which is incredible. Most of our Broadway shows run for 2 weeks. They're here for 5, so that gives you some type of understanding of what we're doing. I will say, if you are going to see it, buy the tickets through us. Don't buy them anywhere else, because you're going to get scalped. So denvercenter.org. What do we have with the theater company, where we do this magical stuff? Just kicked off a national search for a new artistic director. Very exciting. We've had only a couple in the 40-year history of the organization. Come on in, you guys. Come on through. It'll be great. We actually open the Secret Garden tomorrow. It's going to be wonderful. We'll have a gala, a couple hundred people come. It's a really sad, beautiful, heartwarming story. Sad to heartwarming, but it's absolutely gorgeous. We just renovated our Space Theater, which is our theater in the round. It will be one of the most beautiful theaters in the country. We'll open it with The Tragic Macbeth. Why not open it with a Shakespeare heart-throbbing story, a really visceral kind of experience? So make sure you sign up for that. We also have a whole new division targeting millennials, you young, amazing people that we love. So it's called Off Center. And one of the things that we'll be doing is a partnership with the Museum of Contemporary Art. Adam Lerner had started this a long time ago, and basically what it is it's 2 people come in and riff. So it'd be, I'm just going to throw out some names. It's a podiatrist and John Elway, and one's talking about feet and one's talking about football, and they riff, and it's hilarious. So we'll have 400 seats every Wednesday during the summer in the Sewell Ballroom. The tickets are like $10. It'll be super cool. Come down. That's called Mixed Taste. We also have an event that we'll be doing at Stanley Marketplace called the Wild Party. This is where you dress up in your 1920s garb, and it's an entire experience. We have an orchestrated party that is happening around you. Gin in the bathtub, the flapper outfits, the dancing, the love, the affairs. It's like this whole entire drama, and you're in the middle of it. So we have this huge, amazing thing that's happening at Stanley Marketplace. And what else do you want to know here? Cabaret. We have Drag On. If you're a big drag queen kind of loving person, you should go see that. Dixie's Tupperware Party and Girls Only. And you asked me for my nuggets of wisdom. So I'm going to give you my nuggets. This one comes, I think, from age and exhaustion more than anything. Write, not fast, especially in this era. I see too often people wanting to get the answer to someone before they know the answer. Or they want a response, or they want money before they have built out the plan, or whatever it is, they need a right now answer. And I don't live in a right now world. I live in a right, not fast world. I'd prefer not be able to get back to you right away, and I compel everyone around me to slow down. And especially when you get these, Twitter, and what do you all do? You do lots of fun things, and I don't even, where's that social media team? There you go. Hi, Luke. Yes, you. Yes, right, not fast. Remember that. Okay, so that's one. The other is asking all the right questions. Who likes it? Who doesn't like it? And who needs to know? Because I find often that we're moving so fast, or we decided that we're right and we're ready to go, but we don't always think about the universe around us. Did we tell all the people that are going to be our third-party validators and our allies? Did we make sure that our enemies or our opponents or just the people that aren't going to be with us, that they heard it from us? There's so much value and trust that comes from communicating, even when you're going to disagree with somebody, and being your own messenger. And then just who else needs to know? Just always thinking about that appropriate communication. Is this our role? I think so many times we get overwhelmed because we have too many lanes. And a lot of times you can be catalytic, a lot of like what you're doing. I think the Opportunity Coalition is a connector. You're putting people together to figure out who should be together, but it's always asking who is our role. And the last one that, especially in this era for me, is so important is being tough on the issues, but not on the individuals. I can absolutely love you and disagree with you and honor you even if we disagree. I shouldn't hate you because I disagree. Does that make sense? So to me, being tough on the issues and not on the individuals. Those are my 4 key nuggets. What else, Brian?
I'll ask some questions.
Do it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Good job. So I'm going to ask 3 just questions, and then we'll open it up to the group. So number 1, what is the biggest difference you have seen in your time in politics versus being at the DCPA?
Well, at the city, I had 1,500 cops that had guns and tasers. I don't have any guns and tasers as far as I know. No, and they're very emotional. They're so passionate about what they do, and so there's a lot. I was saying, to these 2 ladies here that, I rarely had tears in my office, and today somebody came in. So that's it. It's like, it was very businessy at the city and very intense, and yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a 4th-generation Coloradan, do you believe Colorado has lost contact with its roots, or are there things that are happening in our state that are of concern to you?
Thank you. That's a loaded question. I think there are efforts to stay close to our roots. I mean, I think a lot of the reimagining of the National Western Center, where we're really trying to hold on to our agricultural roots and make sure that we are a premier agriculture destination. But the things that scare me are planned growth. I'm totally pro-growth, but it has to be planned. Do we have enough water? Do we have enough infrastructure? Do we have safe roads? Do we have enough cops? Can we pay for school? I think, some of the fiscal challenges that we have at the State House are really going to have a profound impact on where we are in 10 or 20 years.
Right. You're a very rare person in that you have served, even though you have certain political beliefs, you've served in different environments. Do you believe that the political divide among the parties is worse today than when you first got involved in politics? And should it be healed in any way?
Absolutely. When I worked for Senator Allard, he and Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell were the elected officials. And if you even go back generations before that, Tim Wirth and Hank Brown and Bill Armstrong, and you just look at the people, they were tough on the issues and not on the individuals. They respected their differences, but they all believed that they all represented the people. And I think that the ideologues have kind of sucked the energy out of the room in a lot of ways, and that we don't sit down and who likes it, who doesn't like it, who needs to know, right? Not fast, all those things. And so I am very worried for the state of our country. And it can be brought back so that we are rowing in the same direction with all of us. I mean, this is where you have to vote. I was with Gary Stour, who runs the Bonfils Stanton Foundation, and we were talking about in Australia, it's mandatory that you vote. If you don't vote, you get fined. And we're so lucky that we have the right to vote. I mean, think of the Middle East or think of China. They don't vote. How lucky are we? So we have to participate in the process. There you go.
I agree. Love it. Let's open it up to the group. Who has questions? Yes.
Yes, first off, thank you very much for sharing this about your career. As an aspiring Republican and a career politician, hopefully, what are the words of advice you have for young people like us, especially if we're coming in more moderate than the caucus?
Yeah, it's
So-
a great question.
So Alberto's question is, as someone who aspires to maybe be involved in politics, what is your words of wisdom and advice?
So thank you for being willing to serve. That's about the hardest thing ever. So run and run hard and mean it. Ask questions, and it's okay to say I don't know, because you want it to be right, not fast. The other thing is work your way up the chain. Serve locally, serve a little higher, serve a little higher, serve a little higher. Take the time to make sure you know what you need to know in order to actually be a servant leader.
Great advice. What other questions we have? Yes, in the back.
Where do you see me?
The question is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Are you allowed to ask a lady that question or not? I mean, we'll do it. Okay, go ahead.
I think I should still be at the DCPA. I'm hoping. No, I have no idea. And I was talking to a couple of folks earlier. I do think about running for school board in Denver, even though I'm not married and I don't have children. I'm on the Denver Preschool Program Board. I'm on the UNC board. I started a nonprofit to bring business leaders to invest in early childhood. I think education is the foundation of everything, so I'm hoping I'm in this role, continuing to serve the 106,000 children that we serve at the DCPA. And if the voters think I'm a good person to run, maybe I should be on school board. The what?
His
Oh.
question is the elected positions.
Who are the elected leaders? Who you want me to run? Oh, for president? Sure, I'll get right on that.
Take a note on that. Right, not fast. Remember, we have to think about these things.
Yeah.
Kyle Forty in the back.
I so appreciated everything you had to say, and I'm just curious, just because you went there first and made it political. I'm curious to know why you think we often think of the arts as more of a liberal space as opposed to a conservative space, and if you see that changing at all in terms of the political dynamic, not only with direct party affiliation, but just like liberal versus conservative. You mentioned a lot of that, and I'm curious to see what you see in Denver and just nationwide on that.
So why are the arts often considered more of a liberal space versus a conservative space, and how do we address that dialogue on a national level?
Okay, so there are incredible leaders in our community that have given more to our arts institutions than anyone, but they're also very wealthy. If you look at Mr. Hamilton, who was he endowed the Hamilton building at the Denver Art Museum, or Mr. Ritchie, who I'm following, who, not only with higher ed, but with the cultural community has invested a lot of money, and those are very prominent, I would offer conservative Republicans. But when it comes to the landscape, I feel like a lot of the dialogue and discourse that's had on the stage can be edgy and kind of uncomfortable sometimes for people's moral values. So I'm not gonna lie, like Kinky Boots, it's a transvestite who is spending time with a guy that makes shoes, and they put their worlds together. And for some folks who have more conservative values, I think sometimes those things are tough and uncomfortable. But then there's another space for those folks. I mean, they may not be comfortable in that particular show, but it's being knowledgeable. And what else is happening? The symphony is very, it can be universal, but it may appeal to a certain type of demographic. And that's part of why this community work is so important, to figure out how do we make sure that there's access, affordability, and content that's attractive to everyone. So there's a place for everyone in the conversation. It's a loaded question, but it's a good one.
Good, thank you. What other questions do we have? Yes, Mike. What is it again? What are your favorite theater leadership? Okay, I thought you said theater son, and I'm like, I don't know theater son. I think of myself as well read on a good day. What are your favorite leadership books? Got it.
Yeah. My Sarah Palin moment? Is that what this is? Like, what journals do you read? Well, no, I'm just kidding. And I love Sarah Palin. I'm just saying that's fine. Sorry. It's actually kind of funny. My favorite book, and it's not really a leadership book, is The Pillars of the Earth, which is really interesting because it's about how a community comes together and how you're building something and the diversity that it takes to come together, all the different people, all the different hierarchies. I would say Bringing People With You is probably one of the most important books I've read. David Mirage, who used to own Hot Pockets, had given me that early on, and I've shared it over and over again. But it's really about building a culture with an open door and all voices matter, but being a real deliberate leader when you need to go, that you know you can, and that the people follow. Yeah.
So the gentleman who just asked the question, Mike Pritchard, he's CFO of the CU Foundation. So if anybody wants to make a donation to CU, you can do so tonight. Okay, just thought to put that in there for you, that plug. What other questions do we have? Yes? So the question is, she loves the diversity that the DCPA is showing, and they're going to get some flack for some of that. And so what are the ones upcoming that may produce some of that?
So Disgraced, I don't know if many of you have followed it, but it's a really heavy story about a Muslim who lives in New York with his white wife, and 9/11 had just happened. And so the stage is set in a living room, in their living room, and they actually have a couple over for dinner, and it's a Jewish man, I believe, and an African-American wife. So interesting dinner table and that's the whole, framework for the conversation. And so they get into their personal ideology and their personal biases and even their prejudices that come from their own culture, upbringing, and whatnot. And so before that show was on the stage, we brought the Jewish community, the Muslim community, and the Christian community together for weeks and weeks to have conversations and safe environments so that when it was on the stage, we had ambassadors around the city that were saying, these are tough issues. We're going to be tough on the issues, not on the people. That's what we were really focused on. Then what we did, we had 39 performances at Disgraced. We had a panel of folks representing different walks of life that were there for talkbacks so that you could engage in a dialogue, that you didn't just leave and you were frustrated or you were mad. You had an outlet in which to engage in a dialogue with your community about what just occurred on the stage. And that's the interesting part of theater. It's right now, it's real, you can feel it, they can spit on you, but at the end of the day, it's one way, right? I mean, you might feel the energy of the person next to you that's very off-put or crying or laughing or whatever, but you don't have a space then to really embrace that experience and talk about it. So that's a lot of what we're doing. The Denver Post gave us 4 stars. Congratulations for taking on a really heavy issue. Westward said, why on earth would you ever put that on the stage? And that's okay, right? You gotta that's journalism, fake news. I don't know, just kidding.
And you heard it here at the Opportunity Coalition. Great answer. Let's take 2 more questions, and then we'll kind of end up the evening. Who else has a question? Yes, Riley. What are you doing to combat the scalpers?
Yes. We aren't doing anything. It's a national issue. But we're doing that's not true. What did I say? Buy your tickets from denvercenter.org. So we're doing an education campaign. We're making sure that every opportunity that we have, we protect the consumer to make sure that they know that they need to go to the official source in order to get the ticket. And it's everywhere. It's Ticketmaster. All of the major sporting events or music, venues, we're all struggling with it. But it's going to take a national movement to crack down on it and make the penalties so high that the cost margin is, untenable. So that's it.
Okay, let's take one last question. Yes, Doug.
I represent the disability community.
Yes.
Do you have any initiatives where you can reach out to those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, not only as viewers, but perhaps as actors?
So Doug represents the disability community. Is wondering, can you do anything more to reach out to those individuals?
Absolutely. We have a close partnership with a theater company called Family. Family is an entire company comprised of individuals with all types of mental and physical disabilities. We partner with them all the time. Reagan Linton is the acting executive director, and she's the artistic director, and she was hurt in an accident a long time ago, is in a chair. She lives it, she breathes it. We'll do anything we can to support her. Actually, they need help financially right now, so that's another place you can make a donation. But those organizations should not be in isolation. They should be integrated into the fabric of everything we do, and we have a lot of conversations about able-bodied individuals playing disabled or people with disabilities in plays, and so we're trying to really embrace that as part of our inclusivity efforts. The other thing we're really thoughtful about is people with sensory issues. We do a lot of work with folks with autism to make sure that we do education for the parent about what that experience feels like for a child, so that they can have a theater experience, but the lights or the noise or the intensity may be really hard for them. So we meet them where they are. We have very special theaters to do a lot of intimate learning and performing arts experiences for those children. We're very mindful, one in three people has some type of hearing issue, and so we're also very cognizant of the experience of being in the theater, and so we're working on all sorts of different ways to have Bluetooth and reading devices and all sorts of different modern technologies. But our education program will meet any teacher in any classroom at any time and try to adapt curriculum to make the experience for that student the best it can possibly be. So if you have ideas or partnership opportunities, we'd love to talk to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Let's give
Reagan.
her a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, so for those who have attended before, you know that I like to pull out the 10 golden nuggets of wisdom. Janice gave me a few more, so you've got like 12 tonight. So I think it's going to be interesting. So number one, whatever it is that you leave, run towards the next adventure. Number two, give it back, serve into the future. Number three, work for people that are open-minded and compassionate. Number four, engage in dialogue where you can talk about the tough stuff. How many times are we often just talking about the weather and all the surface things? And we need to have conversations where we feel comfortable and able to talk about the tough stuff. 5, partnership, not partisan. Wouldn't that be interesting, especially on the political side? Number 6, investing in theater is important. And going on what Kyle Forty said, I would say regardless of your political affiliation. To me, this is a human issue, and these are human stories that are being told on stage. Number 7, take a hard look at understanding your community. What is your community? In the workplace, at home, out in the world? What is your community? And I'd like to add on to that by encouraging you to think about maybe expanding the definition of what your community should be. It should be with people who look and think and act differently than you do. It'll make life a lot more rich for you. Number 7. Well, that was number 7. Number 8. Somebody's got to keep me on track here. Number 8. Who are the amazing people who helped put you first? Remember them. Number 9. I like this one from a business perspective. Denver is a great test market. We show up, we give honest feedback, we are engaged. Think about that for your business or different things you might want to launch. Denver's a great place for that. Number 10, write, not fast. Compel people to slow down and get it right. That's not an easy one to do. Number 11, asking all the right questions. We all need to spend a whole lot more time asking questions and building relationship. We had a lunch today, and I asked a woman, she's an unbelievable relationship builder. Her name is Nicole Gamp. And I asked her, I said, what is the key to growing relationships for you? Because she's never met a stranger. She says, I just ask questions, and I'm interested in people. Number 12, which is probably one of the best of the evening, tough on the issues, not on the individuals. And whether that be in politics or on our workplace or in our home life, that's one that we all can take and really benefit from. We've got some phenomenal upcoming speakers. On May 25th, we have Pete Coors, chairman of Miller Coors. On June 8th, we have Joe Ellis, chairman and president and CEO of the Denver Broncos. No other jerseys from any other teams are allowed here that night. We're going to have bouncers at the door. I'm a huge Broncos fan. I don't want to see any Patriots jerseys. Just leave them home. Just leave them home. We're inclusive at the Opportunity Coalition, but not when it comes to jerseys of other teams that night. Want to be clear? Okay. Good. There. And I'm keeping an eye on those who are not clapping right now. You may not get an invite. Just saying. Okay. July 13th, Wayne Hagan, award-winning sportscaster and former voice of the Colorado Rockies, the New York Mets, and the St. Louis Cardinals. He's got a great voice, by the way. August 10th, Tamara Banks, Emmy Award-winning journalist and CEO of Taz Media. I'm really excited about that with her because she's going into places like the Sudan and others, making these unbelievable, compelling human stories. September 14th, Rick White, president of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. October 12th, Margaret Kelly, former president and CEO of RE/MAX. I had lunch with her this week. Can't wait for her to share her story about running such a large organization. November 9th, George Brockler, District Attorney for Colorado's 18th Judicial District. Yes, he is running for governor, but he was selected before he ran for governor, and he is going to be bringing in some of the jurors that were involved in the Aurora shooting case and asking them what they were thinking when they were looking at putting a person, taking their life from them, and what does that look like? December 14th, Charles McNeil, Chairman and CEO of NextGen Resources Corporation. He's one of the primary producers of clean coal in this country. Whether you agree with clean coal or not, come and learn more about it and hear his perspective. We also have a great lineup going into 2018. Lastly, before you go, please keep in mind our Mountains of Opportunity TV show. I get to show up to any entrepreneur, unless it's marijuana, only subject I can't talk about in the Comcast. But it's a little TV show we do, and whether it's one individual that they've hired being themselves, or 10 or 20 or 1,000, we're going out and finding positive stories of entrepreneurs all throughout Colorado, both for-profit and non-for-profit. Last week, on Monday, I got to interview Infinite Monkey wine theorems, and yes, I had a little bit of wine. That's okay. The next day, I went and interviewed Michelle C. Whitten, whose father, founded Stars Media, but she founded the Global Down Syndrome Foundation. It's amazing. So for-profit, non-for-profit, doesn't cost them a thing. I underwrite it, and I'm doing it because I really want to create positive stories for entrepreneurs all throughout Colorado. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here tonight.